Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Gaur Premanande. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramsa Parivajikacharya Asatara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramsa Parivajikacharya Asatara Shata Shri Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Karadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki. Shri Mayapur Dham ki. Ganga Mai ki. Yamuna Mai ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Tulasi Devi ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 4, Chapter 8, Text 27 and 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we'll just read through text 27, and then we'll do call and response for 28. So text 27 is Narada Uvacha Naduna Pyava Manam Te Samanam Vapi Putraka Lakshayama Kumarasya Saktasya Kridanadishu. And then text 28. Translation, there's the great sage Narada told Dhruva, "My dear boy, you are only a little boy whose attachment is to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so affected by words insulting your honor?" And then we'll go through the purport. But let's go to text 28 for call and response. Vikalpe vidyamanepi nahya santosha hetava Pumsa moham rite bina yaloke nija karma bi vikalpe vidyamanepi nahya santosha hetava Pumso moham rite bina yaloke nija karma bi. Okay. Vikalpe vidyamanepi Nahya santosha hetava Pumsho moham rite bina Yaloke nija karma bi. Okay, so vikalpe, alternation, vidyamane api, although there is, not, he, certainly, asantosha, dissatisfaction, hetava, causes, pumsa, of the persons, mohamrite, without being illusioned, pina, separated, yatloke, within this world, nija karma bi, by his own work. Translation. My dear Dhruva, if you feel that your sense of honor has been insulted, you still have no cause for dissatisfaction. This kind of dissatisfaction is another feature of the illusory energy. Every living entity is controlled by his previous actions, and therefore there are different varieties of life for enjoying or suffering. So let's go through the translation and purports for both 27 and 28. So the great sage Narada told Dhruva, my dear boy, you are only a little boy whose attachment is to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so affected by the words insulting your honor? In the purport there is, ordinarily if a child is rebuked as a rascal or fool, he smiles and does not take such insulting words very seriously. Similarly, if words of honor are offered, he does not appreciate them. But in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, the Kshatriya spirit was so strong that he could not tolerate a slight insult from his stepmother, which injured his Kshatriya prestige. And text 28. My dear Dhruva, if you feel that your sense of honor has been insulted, you still have no cause for dissatisfaction. This kind of dissatisfaction is another feature of the illusory energy. Every living entity is controlled by his previous actions, and therefore there are different varieties of life for enjoying or suffering. Purport. In the Vedas it is said that the living entity is always uncontaminated and unaffected by material association. The living entity gets different types of material bodies because of his previous fruitive actions. If, however, one understands the philosophy that as a living spirit soul, he has an affinity for neither suffering nor enjoyment, then he is considered to be a liberated person. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text 54, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. When one is actually situated on the transcendental platform, he has nothing for which to lament and nothing for which to hanker. Narada Rishi first of all wanted to impress upon Dhruva Maharaj that he was only a child. He should not have been affected by words of insult or honor. And if he were so developed as to understand honor and insult, then this understanding should have been applied in his own life. He should have known that honor and dishonor are both destined only by one's previous actions. Therefore, one should not be sorry or happy under any circumstances. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sadvatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashta Prayasha Bhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So, we are reading about how Dhruva Maharaj, he has left his home and gone to the forest, and he wants to meditate on the Supreme Lord so that he can attain a kingdom greater than his father's and greater than his grandfather's, because he was so much hurt by the harsh treatment that he received from his stepmother. And in text number 27, Narada Muni, he's saying to Dhruva that, my dear boy, you are only a little boy whose attachment is to sports and other frivolities. Why are you so affected by words insulting your honor? So we'll look first at the nature of children, which is being pointed out here, and then we'll look at the nature of kshatriyas, because Dhruva, he's actually a kshatriya. So although he may be just a child, he's got a strong kshatriya spirit. And then we'll look at the nature of the transcendentalist, which is brought out in the next text by Narada Muni. Okay, so let's just consider the nature of children for a minute. In purport, it is described that if a child is insulted, they don't really get offended. They just smile and they don't really care. They just don't even care. Or you can praise them, and again, they won't take it to heart so much. They don't take so much so seriously. And actually, I was thinking about how there's a lot that we can learn from children. They're very humble. They think, all these adults, all these grown-ups, there's so much I can learn from them. So let me just hear what they have to say. So in that way, they're actually very humble. But Dhruva, he's a kshatriya, and one of the characteristics of a kshatriya is that they have the sense of prestige. So let's just look at the different varnas that they are. There are the brahmanas, the kshatriyas, the vaishyas, and the shudras. And the brahmanas are like the priests or the teachers or the from the head of society. And then the kshatriyas are meant to be the ones who protect them. So the people who are kshatriyas, they're very brave, very powerful, and like we said, they have the sense of prestige. And if that kind of culture is reserved in a family, then all of the children who are born to kshatriyas will also have that fighting spirit, that hero spirit, that kshatriya spirit. And Dhruva was one such child. He had this kshatriya blood that's explained in the purport to our previous text. So he did have this sense of prestige, and he felt very much hurt by the words of his stepmother. But we can understand that the varna of a person is dependent on the characteristics, but also the behavior of a person. So in contrast to Dhruva actually behaving like a kshatriya, I was thinking about how Ashvatham in the first canto killed the children of Draupadi, and for that reason, although he was the son of a Brahmana, he was not called a Brahmana. Although he was born in a Brahmanical family, he was actually called Brahma Bandhu, the friend of a Brahmana, and he was called Dvijatmaja, the son of a Brahmana. So he was not himself referred to as being a Brahmana because he didn't actually display those characteristics due to his abominable activities there. But here, Dhruva, he is actually displaying the characteristics of a kshatriya, having that sense of prestige and being hurt because of the words that he received from his stepmother, or not stepmother, his, what would we call her? The other wife of the king. So another example of kshatriya and how Krishna kind of helped us to understand the nature of a kshatriya was Arjuna. When he was on the battlefield, he didn't want to fight, but Krishna expressed that people will always speak of your infamy. He was saying that if you don't fight, then you'll be dishonored, and for you that will be worse than death. So he's just pointing out that this is the nature of the kshatriya. It's his duty to fight or to have that sense of heroism, and if that is affected and he feels dishonored, then for him that's actually worse than death. So here Narada Muni, he's saying to Dhruva that you're just a young boy, so why should you be so much affected? Because usually children are not so affected by this idea of honor and dishonor. And then in the next text he says, but actually even if you are affected, even if you feel that your sense of honor has been insulted, still you should have no cause for dissatisfaction, because this kind of dissatisfaction is another feature of the illusory energy. Every living entity is controlled by his previous actions, and therefore there are different varieties of life for enjoying and suffering. So now Narada Muni, he's explaining to Dhruva that, okay, even if you are insulted, because you can understand this idea of honor and dishonor, surely you can also understand that it's pointless in being insulted, even if you are honored or dishonored, because you should understand that it's just a part of the illusory energy to experience reverses, to experience some kind of dishonor, and it's all due to our previous activities. So there's no need to enjoy or suffer the results from those previous activities. So let's just go through the purport there more. So in the Vedas it is said that the living entity is always uncontaminated and unaffected by material association. So there's a nice description in Sri Harinam Chintamani about how the living entity is actually a part of the Shuddha Sattva energy of the Lord. So Krishna, he has his Chit Vaibhav and Achit Vaibhav, his spiritual potencies and his material potencies. And his spiritual potency is never contaminated by the material potency. Shuddha Sattva is always pure. It never is contaminated by the material nature. And actually, the living entity is a part of the Shuddha Sattva category. But unlike the Lord, we can become contaminated because we associate with material nature. And that is because Krishna is our well-wisher and he fulfills our desires. Although we are by nature pure because we want to associate with material energy. He actually allows us to do that, and he facilitates that. Okay. So the living entity gets different types of material bodies because of his previous fruitive actions. If, however, one understands the philosophy that as a living spirit soul, he has an affinity for neither suffering nor enjoyment, then he is considered to be a liberated person. So by nature, actually, we don't have an affinity for suffering or enjoyment. The soul, the real us, doesn't see a need to enjoy. The real us just wants Krishna to enjoy and wants to satisfy the senses of Krishna. And in doing that, actually, we do enjoy, because that is where we get our real enjoyment. That is where our satisfaction really comes from. If we satisfy Krishna, we will also feel satisfied. And actually, the devotee of Krishna experiences even more spiritual enjoyment than Krishna himself. And that is why Krishna appears as Lord Chaitanya, because he's thinking, I am the Lord of the universe, but I cannot understand how it is that Srimati Radharani, my greatest devotee, and all of my devotees experience so much bliss from just serving me. I don't understand how it is that they love me. Let me get that experience. And then he comes as Lord Chaitanya to get that experience. So although we don't have an affinity for the suffering or enjoyment, naturally the soul is blissful because it's just engaged in Krishna's service. So that is the highest enjoyment we can experience, and the only real enjoyment we can experience. And if we actually realize that, we understand that philosophy, then we're considered to be liberated. So liberation, this means we are free from material consciousness, that we're situated in our constitutional position as Krishna's servants. And in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, it actually says that liberation and transcendental life follow all the devotees of the Lord. So if we're just practicing devotional service, then we already are situated on the transcendental platform. We already get liberation. We don't have to strive separately from that. And then it's written here that it is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, text number 54. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. So let's just go there and see a little bit more on that text. The translation there is, one who is thus transcendentally situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that for the devotee, it's not really enough to just receive liberation. For the devotee, they want to have that personal association with Krishna. And like we said, if you actually try to get that personal association with Krishna, liberation is already there for the devotee. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And then it is written that when one is actually situated on a transcendental platform, he has nothing for which to lament and nothing for which to hanker. Narada Rishi first of all wanted to impress upon Dhruva Maharaj that he was only a child. He should not have been affected by words of insult or honor. And if he were so developed as to understand honor and insult, then his understanding should have been applied in his own life. He should have known that honor and dishonor are both destined only by one's previous actions. Therefore, one should not be sorry or happy under any circumstance. And there's that verse, Matra sparshasti kontiya shitoshna shuka dukadab. agama paino nityastam stitikshasva bharata, which says the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. But we also know 1866, Sarvadharma Parityagyama Mekam Sharanam Vraja, where Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to me. I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So actually for the devotee, they don't experience ordinary karma. We don't experience ordinary karma, but actually we can understand that Krishna is personally deciding what should happen in our lives. He's our well-wisher, and he is making every attempt in our lives to actually rectify our consciousness enough to bring us closer to him. And it's a really nice description in Srila Prabhupada's purport to Canto 10, Chapter 14, Text 8. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord. And therefore, the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home, back to Godhead. So everything in our experience, if we're trying to surrender to Krishna, is actually just meant to bring us closer to him. But even those personalities who are not trying to surrender to Krishna are also finding circumstances in their lives which are all designed to bring them back, because the whole process of karma within itself is designed in such a way that it's meant for the rectification of our consciousness, to help us give up on sense enjoyment and to just surrender to Krishna. Because until we become materially exhausted, we can't sincerely take shelter in the Lord. So, and actually, we're also seeing in the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj as they unfold that this whole experience with his mother and the king's favorite wife led him to actually meet his spiritual master, Narada Muni, and to take shelter in him, and actually led him to ultimately attain the association of the Lord. And that's because he took the good instructions from his mother. So for us also, all of these reverses in our lives, we can understand that they're actually meant to bring us closer. Because Krishna, he's our well-wisher, and he wants us to come closer to him more than we want that. He wants that so much that he's willing to put us through anything just to purify us enough to get us back. And we've all suffered, right? Is there anyone in the room who hasn't experienced some suffering in this world? No. All of us have suffered. But three things happen when we go through suffering in this material world. First thing that happens is we realize we don't belong here. We think, actually, this isn't what I want, and this place, this is not home, this is not the place I'm supposed to be. And we develop some desire to make spiritual progress. Think about a frog who is kept in a nice jar of water, and he thinks, oh, this jar, it's very comfortable. I don't need anything else. I'm satisfied. But if you heat up the jar until it becomes so hot that it's intolerable, and then the frog thinks, no, I can't stay here. And then he jumps out and discovers there's a whole pond waiting for him. So for us as well, we're here in the material world thinking, this is it. This is everything I need. But there's a whole spiritual world full of spiritual rust waiting for us. We don't belong here. So we get some impetus and some realization of that. And another thing that happens is that Krishna, he actually, through giving us these different challenges, also gives us a key to going back to the spiritual world. Because there is this really nice verse, again it's Canto 10, chapter 14, text number 8. Tatenu kampam sushamiksamano punjana ivatma kritam vipakam Hritvakva purpir vidatan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaya bhak. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. And then Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport that this word daya bhak is very important because we can see that it becomes the inheritance of a devotee. Although he's going through so much difficulty, if he still continues to practice sincerely, and because he really wants to go back to the spiritual world and he really wants to serve Krishna, although he is experiencing reverses, then it becomes his rightful claim, daya bhak, his inheritance to actually achieve spiritual perfection. So we actually get the opportunity to go back to the spiritual world just because we're continuing regardless of all the difficulties. And another thing that happens when we're suffering is that we develop compassion for others who are also suffering, because unless we go through some challenges, how can we ever sincerely understand what it's like to go through a challenge? And looking at those who haven't come into contact with Krishna consciousness in this life, we can understand their suffering and we'll develop compassion and the quality of mercy. We'll want to go and assist them and bring them back. And because we have found a process which we know mitigates all suffering eternally, we'll want to go and give that to others once we have some taste for practicing Krishna consciousness. And in this way, we're also given an opportunity to become dear to the Lord. We get that opportunity because Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text 66 to 69, that this confidential knowledge, if it's explained to the devotees, then pure devotional service is guaranteed for that person who actually explains it. And at the end, that person will go back to Krishna. And Krishna says, there's no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So just by going through the difficulties, we can understand we are so fortunate. What we've been given is so special, and we'll have this quality of mercy to go and share, and in that way we'll become dear to the Lord. So first we realize we don't belong here. We have some impetus to practice. And then we're practicing and we're still suffering, but we're still practicing, and therefore it becomes actually our rightful claim to inherit the spiritual world, the mercy of Krishna. And then because we have some taste, after some time we're able to share that experience with others and bring them closer to Krishna and please Krishna in the best way. And therefore we become dear to Krishna. So actually, isn't it mercy to suffer? Isn't it so much mercy? To temporary happiness and distress, they come from placing our desires in temporary sense gratification. But temporary sense gratification is something even we are still hankering for. We're not pure devotees. As practicing devotees, we might still be practicing and approaching Krishna for some material profit, material benefit. Because to be free from material desire means to desire nothing for sense gratification and only to desire everything for the satisfaction of Krishna's senses. But that's what prema bhakti is, to only want to satisfy Krishna's senses. Of course, we're not practicing prema bhakti, we're not there yet. We're not on that platform. But the true desire of the soul beneath our anarthas is to satisfy the senses of Krishna. So actually, the only lamentation for the soul is not being able to serve in that position. So that's just desire and lamentation. The desire for the soul is, I want to serve Krishna, and the lamentation is, right now, I'm not able to really do that properly. But if we are approaching Krishna with some material motivation, then we're actually practicing Kaitava Dharma, which is cheating religion. Not that the process we're given isn't perfect, but we cheat ourselves out of actually fully receiving the mercy of the process, because Krishna can give you everything, and because he is our well-wishing friend, and because the holy name of the Lord is like a beautiful touchstone which can actually award anything and everything, including material desires. Of course, the holy name can give us that. I just wanted to read a little bit from here in relation to this. Lord Krishna's name is like an eternal and transcendental touchstone. A touchstone can grant all desirable objects. The touchstone of Lord Krishna's holy name can give religiosity, wealth, sense pleasure, and liberation to a materialistic person. So if we approach Krishna for these things, okay, sure, he will give it to us. But like I said, we're actually just cheating ourselves if we are not approaching Krishna with just love in our hearts. Because even the highest pleasures in the material world are diametrically opposed to transcendental bliss. It's written in here. Diametrically opposed to transcendental bliss. So for a surrendered devotee, the holy name actually offers pure love of Krishna. So we want to try and surrender. Because if we place our desires in material nature, then we just become increasingly entangled in the material world and in the miseries of the material world. But if we place our desires in serving Krishna, then we are sure to attain all perfection. Tatra lolyam api mulyam ekalam. There is only one price to pay for pure devotional service, and that's intense greed, intense longing, a strong desire to obtain it. But how do we develop that desire? Prabhupada gives this nice analogy. When we hear about a place in this world, for example, California, if I say, oh, the weather is so nice, the trees are so beautiful, everyone is very friendly, it's just perfect. Then you think, oh, California, I want to go to California. And then you desire to go there, and you develop some kind of way by which you can actually get there. Maybe you make money, you get your ticket, and you get your visa. So similarly, when we hear about Krishna, we hear about the pastimes of Krishna, we hear about Krishna's transcendental abode, Goloka Vrindavan, we develop some desire. We think, oh wow, Goloka Vrindavan, it's perfect. I want to go there. We have some desire in our heart to go there. So by hearing about Krishna, we think, what a wonderful personality. I want to be able to actually serve this personality, Krishna. So it all starts there, and it all ends there, with Shravanam, Kirtanam, with chanting, with hearing. and associating with the devotees who actually have that desire and hearing from them, and then we'll also develop some desire to actually serve Krishna. Okay. Are there any questions or comments or corrections? Okay. So maybe we'll just end off with the most valuable thing, which is the holy name itself. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, yes.
Sorry, if I may add. We see that Narad Muni is actually testing Dhruva to see what quality he has. And he's asking him if his honor is hurt. And we see that these qualities, we all have it, and this is what Bhagavad Gita is telling us. Chaturvarna maya sustam guna karma vibhagasha in chapter 4, verse 13. So these qualities we all, and Srila Prabhupada is saying it in the purport, we derive it from our previous births, that we build up this quality. And then we see Krishna also explaining these different qualities of the different varnas. And that is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, 42, 43, 44. So in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, 43, he gives the qualities of a Kshatriya. And the qualities of a Kshatriya is heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity and leadership. So he says that these are the natural qualities for the work of the Kshatriyas. And we see this in Dhruva. And now when we look at a child, and the same happens with Prahlad Maharaj as well, when we look at him as a child, we think, oh, children, they should be playing and so on. But these qualities and these determination to serve Krishna is not just a sudden awakening. It is a very gradual build-up. So when we see someone, and that's why Srila Prabhupada said, be careful about who might be next to you, maybe a Narad Muni. Because when we see someone, we think, oh, this person is an ordinary person. This is what Scripture is showing us, that your spiritual life is a continuation. And Dhruva didn't suddenly wake up to being a Kshatriya. He was determined as a Kshatriya. And as a little child, he showed these qualities. Because he wasn't a Kshatriya just in this lifetime. He was a Kshatriya previously as well. Then, now we think Kshatriya, is it a good quality or bad quality? We look at Arjuna on the battlefield. Yes, he was a Kshatriya as well. And Srila Prabhupada stated that after Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Arjuna still remained a Kshatriya. He did not become a Brahmin. And this is one of the fallacies we have in ISKCON, is that we need to develop the Varnashrama Dharma. But we think that, no, Srila Prabhupada wanted everyone to become Brahmins. No. If you're a Kshatriya, then remain a Kshatriya and do, and Krishna is saying, do your own duty. So there are many Kshatriyas in ISKCON, there are many administrators in ISKCON, but they're shying away from their duties. There are many Brahmanas as well, Brahminical people, but they're shying away from the duties, and we're mixing duties. So this is what is being shown here, that Dhruva was so determined, he didn't mix himself up. He was determined. When his honor was being affected by his stepmother, Surichi, he was upset, and he was determined to sort this out. That's the determination. Krishna talks about determination of a Kshatriya. This is what Dhruva is showing, determination. So these are qualities that are there. It's given, Krishna's given everyone these qualities, these 4 different varnas. And we have to use those varnas in service of Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, my understanding, because when Srila Prabhupada was in New Vrindavan, he said he wanted to establish the Varnashram system. And towards the end of his life, he said that he did have one regret, that he didn't establish the Varnashram system. So he did want that to be established, not maybe within ISKCON itself as an institution, but he wanted that was established within the world. And all of us in Kali Yuga are lower than Shudras, but by the mercy of our spiritual masters, we have the opportunity to attain Brahminical qualities. Yeah. But thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have anything? Okay.
Well, now that you said that, maybe I can add to what you just said. Srila Prabhupada on his deathbed was asked whether he has any regrets. And he says, yes, I've got one. And people started to one person started to speculate. He said, no, that I did not establish Varnashrama Dharma. That was his lamentation. And then he went on to say after that 50% of the work in ISKCON is done. The other 50% of establishing Varnashrama Dharma is up to us. And that is a final instruction from Srila Prabhupada to all of us to establish Varnashrama Dharma.
Yes. So we have a lot of work to do. Thank you. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.